over and over and over again. They are not federal government operations to sniff radiation, gas, recovery, anything else. Number two, they remain committed to their message that there is zero evidence of laws being broken by any of these drones. And the context here was the fact that when Josh and I live probably equidistant from Midtown Manhattan, the New York metropolitan area is some of the most crowded airspace in the world, with Newark, Teterboro, White Plains, LaGuardia, Newark, JFK. There is a lot of commercial aircraft in the air, general aviation aircraft in the air. There are 800,000 registered drones in this country, and then millions and millions of many unregistered drones. Because if you have a drone that weighs less than about half a pound, that need not be registered. These sightings.
Welcome to the new party. I'm Nora Christine.
I'm Gray Mars.
Vulgar Locker Room.
Jay.
Today on the new party, we're going to be discussing what are those drones in the sky over the northeast of America. So this has to be the most silent I've heard the Biden administration yet. They can't say who the drones belong to, but today they had a secret meeting where senators came out, and I've heard different versions. I've heard there are drones. I've heard they're China's. Gray, as the Democrat on the call, whose drones are they?
I don't necessarily have the answer to that. I actually do wish Joe Biden would come out, or even Kamala Harris, and make some kind of statement, because once something happens, conspiracy theorists, and especially MAGA, they run with whatever's going on. Nora's been saying the wildest things. My neighbor's been saying the wildest things, but I don't know. Jay Herm, what do you think? What do you think it is?
I think Biden has the same thing. It's like the same thing with the Chinese surveillance balloons. I just feel like no matter what he does, if he doesn't say anything, it's a conspiracy theory. If he does say something, he's lying. He just kind of just doesn't feed the fire. Honestly, I generally think because they have to come from the United States, because the distance they would travel to be from there. So they have, especially some of the larger ones I was reading to, need to be refueled like pretty often. So they have to be domestic. So, I mean, there's two logical things. Not like, I'm calling me old school and like a day of conspiracy theories, but the simplest explanation I think is, one, you have a private company just testing out mass drones, and there's a lot of companies that could be doing that, especially in the United States. Or two, they're lying, and it is military. Like even Donald Trump himself said the United States military knows where they're coming from. Out mass drone use over a densely populated area. And then I was reading too that some of them, people were trying to fly their own drones and they weren't working at the same time that those drones were functioning. So it could be testing some sort of EMP drones that can fly if EMP has been let off. It is some kind of mass test. And then I wouldn't, automatically blame the government, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was some sort of mass government testing, because the government tests things on the American people all the time. They tested A-bombs in New Mexico. They tested syphilis on Black people. They tested aerosol gas on San Francisco. So the government is no stranger to testing things on its own people.
Vulgar.
And that would just make the most sense.
I've been watching I had a couple of videos pop up on my feed that were saying there's no reason for drones to fly at night, besides if they're looking for something, and it wouldn't be visual. It would be like on the infrared spectrum, or maybe some type of radiation detector. And then I heard something about there was some type of radiation, whatever material that was lost, and they're trying to look for it. They're just not telling the American public. And then I just heard that there's been some drone sighted in Ohio right now.
Yep.
So that's, to me, that's the most viable thing, is that something happened and the government's not want to come right out for whatever reason, and these drones are searching for something. But I do believe they're American drones. And if they drones that didn't work, like civilian, most of the drones that are registered they have geo walls built into them, so that the government can tell them not to fly in certain areas. Like if you try to fly over a game or something like that, your drone will not fly over, because if it's registered, then the government can stop it. You would have to hack the geo wall to get your drone to actually fly.
Yeah, and I have clips that go into Vogler's theory. I don't Are you guys familiar with Bethany Frankel?
No.
No.
Okay, so Bethany Frankel is a former Real Housewife of New York, but she's very, very connected. She actually was predicted to be the next Oprah, so she has a lot of rich friends. I'm going to play this clip of what she's saying she heard from someone rich and powerful. Do I believe it's true? No, but I'll play her and then I'll play someone substantial after her, after we comment.
But why should today be any different than any other day? I know this guy whose father worked with the Pentagon and NASA and like secret projects, and he has been messaging me that he will never forgive himself if he doesn't tell the people that he knows that for a month he's been watching this situation. And now, several days ago, before it became a discussion in the mainstream media, that these drones are ours and that they could very possibly be sniffing out something very dangerous, some missing dangerous W from the war, and that areas that coincide with where the drones have been seen have spiked in radiation. So he said it's time to think about where I am and that I might want to go somewhere with my daughter. So like for me, you know, we blow things off and we think nothing's going to happen, but things do happen. I remember sitting in my car with my driver who said to me months before I even knew what the words global pandemic meant, I think there's going to be a global pandemic. I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, if he had bet the markets, he would have been a billionaire. So I'm just listening to this guy and watching. And now Trump, who's hanging out with a lot of billionaires who have a lot of money for research, is also finding out that these are ours. And what were the government's choices? A, tell us that that's what they're doing and widespread panic and pandemonium, or B, do what they're doing. But something is wrong because otherwise they would eliminate them, and everyone's being very cagey. So what do you think? This guy has also been talking to...
So I always bring things with facts, right? Like the only reason why I think this is plausible is, and again, most people do get their news on X-ray. So I saw this map on X, and this was quite scary. They're saying that the radiation levels allegedly are up in the areas that you guys see here. As you can see, there's the map and it's elevated. They're claiming it's elevated in New Jersey and in New York. It goes to what Jay's saying, that they are searching for something. Jay, what's your thoughts after watching this extremely rich Caucasian woman who claims she has these connections say what she said?
Well, first I want to say I hate when my driver has an opinion, so she's better than me. But it does make it just, I want to see like the radiation results for the entire, because that just seems so, it's so easy to keyhole something, you know, and just say, oh, radiation, and then what does that even mean? Radiation rises with heat too. So what is that like? Is it to a
But it's
dangerous
not hot
level?
right
Is
now.
it to? But what I'm saying is, you know, it could be just hotter in different places. Like, what I'm saying is, like, radiation spiking is such a vague term. Like, X-ray techs are exposed to radiation every day. Is it a dangerous amount? No. Like, I would like to see like what the increase is and what is it. You know, is it a dangerous amount? Is it significantly increased? But the fact that they would be searching for something, now that you mention it, does actually say a lot.
And that's the world.
You know, and why
Yeah.
use so many? Unless if it's such a large, what I'm saying is, if it's such a large radiation trace, this is a better way to say it. Why do they need so many to find it?
True.
You know, New Jersey, respectively, is not that big. It is
Maybe
densely
there's, like,
populated, yes.
Maybe it's like radio, how they use radio towers. They'll use hundreds of them to
Like
focus in.
like pinging off, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could see
that's a
that,
good
but what
point,
I'm saying is,
Booker.
like, that's what doesn't make sense to me. Why do they need so many? That's why the testing thing
To
doesn't make
cover
so
a
much sense.
bigger
Because
area.
one, it's all different types of drones. You know, there's one huge ones.
Well,
Predator drones.
This
They're
is where
small
I go
ones.
into the other thing that I think they're private drones now because people are sending them up because they're trying to figure out what's going on. And this is why I'm mad at the government because you're creating chaos. Because by not giving some sort of narrative, now we're all guessing, and you have these people doing their private drones and they're blasting them up.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. That the issue is like now how you was like most people get their news from X. We have all these social media sleuths that's trying to like figure out information. Like now, me like I'm in college, right? And what do you have to do at the end of every paper? You have to put your references and you have to put your sources. So it's just all kinds of information out there. I mean, even us to a degree where we're researching and talking about different news topics, I think have a better credibility than a housewife and her driver that's just, hanging out. So that's what
That's
Believe
I'm
all
derogatory.
women,
Yeah.
Gray. Believe all women. Believe all women.
In some senses,
No,
some senses I do. As we segue.
no.
Roger, what do you think about the clip I played? Do you think it's radiation?
Like I said, that's what I've been hearing. I wouldn't be surprised. Um, like I said, the person I watched, he said there's no reason for drones to fly at night unless you're looking for something. And it's
Or they're
something, like I
testing
said,
them.
again, it's something that fits on some invisible spectrum. So
Well, you
radiation,
guys aren't
yeah.
going to believe her. So let's watch a drone expert, and this can be one of the last clips we play. Maybe you'll believe him.
Here in Wichita, Kansas. I'm not normally a TikTok kind of a guy. I like watching this stuff every once in a while. But I'm a manufacturer of unmanned aircraft, military grade unmanned aircraft, as you can see one of my systems here. There's all of these mysterious drones going on off the East Coast, and as a professional, as a subject matter expert, I wanted to give you all my opinion on what I think could be going on with these drones. I don't particularly believe that these have a nefarious intent. I could be wrong, but I want to give you the truth and what I believe. It's my own opinion, and I've not bounced this off of anybody. So, if you think it's bullshit, whatever, that's cool. With Russia, there were countless nuclear missiles that were disarmed and disposed of. Well, there were over 80, I believe. There were over 80 nuclear warheads that were in Ukraine that came up missing. Okay? We don't know where they are. Maybe somebody does, but nobody really knows where these are. And I speak with some pretty high-level government officials on this stuff, and it seems as though that is the case. So I spoke to a gentleman a few months ago who was trying to raise an alarm to the highest levels of our government, which they had their ears closed, about this one particular nuclear warhead that he physically put his hands on. He physically touched this warhead that was left over from Ukraine. And he knew that thing was headed towards the United States. Nuclear or the radioactive material would be taken along the Interstate 70 corridor heading east or west or south. So, from what we understand, they were out there trying to find this radioactive material. Now, drones, they have no reason to be in the air at night unless you're doing some type of ISR work, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, looking for bad guys, or looking for a victim, trying to smell gas. We have methane gas detection systems that can detect gas leaks in pipelines. You really wouldn't use thermal optics for trying to find gas leaks, just simply because the only way you're actually going to find a gas leak with thermal optics is if the gas leak is aggressive enough that it has a difference in temperature, because thermal imaging it creates a digital image based off the temperature variance. So we have special sensors that can detect gas leaks. We also have special sensors that can detect radioactive material. So with this gentleman that I had spoken with, who was trying to raise the alarm to try to get somebody in the government to say, hey, we need to work together to go try to find this nuclear warhead, none of that ever happened. They knew that warhead was on its way to the United States. That's all that ever came of it. Nothing ever happened. This government did not do anything at all to help this gentleman raise the alarm and raise awareness that there is a very deadly weapon on its way to the United States. It's out there. Nobody knows where it's at now. It left Europe. Now it's gone.
Okay, guys. Vulgar, what do you think about the video? Oh, maybe he's not here. Oh,
That's the video. One of them that I
I was
watched.
gonna say something.
It's the most logical.
mm-hmm.
It really is the most logical. We're not them down. The government doesn't. They're not coming out to say anything. There hasn't been like a response. So it's, to me, that's, we know what's going on. They just don't want to say. They don't want us to panic. Maybe that
Absolutely.
could be
Yeah,
the thing.
exactly.
They
Can you
don't. They don't
imagine
want
the
the.
millions of
Yeah.
people? Yeah.
I wouldn't tell us either, honestly.
Yeah. So
I
until
mean,
they find out and get it under control, we're probably gonna be left in the dark.
Have you ever seen the Some Mobile Fears?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the greatest movie, but the premise is just like that. Basically, someone buys a rogue warhead on the loan to Israel, and they smuggle it to the United States.
Mm.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
what I
And
was gonna go ahead, my bad, Jay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say to you, I don't. They, I imagine they could be lying, but I do think the Soviet Union does, after they broke apart, they did account for all their warheads, but there was literally thousands of them. So
Mm.
the fact that they could all be accounted for is very believable. That they would all not be accounted for, because there's
You said which
alone
country?
after the Soviet Union broke up,
Yeah,
they literally left thousands of warheads in Ukraine. Um,
I remember that.
Ukraine had a larger, at one time had a larger arsenal than the United States did of nuclear warheads after they broke up.
Not just that, they have nuclear plants that are
Yeah.
not being manned right now because of the war. Like, that's the biggest thing.
Well, yeah,
So
that too. But I'm saying, as far as like the weaponized, allegedly give them all back in exchange for aid. But who's to say? And who's to say that they could tell the truth?
so what Jay just said something that made me question him, or question what he said. What about Syria being broke up? Do you think something can be an issue there?
You think? Well,
Yeah,
I do.
but it's possible. I agree with you, Vulgar. They're
Yeah,
angry.
like everybody's in Syria like they were in Ukraine.
Well, it definitely wouldn't be a country because of mutually assured destruction. So it would be an organization if that were to happen.
No, I mean if somebody stole
Oh yeah,
something
absolutely.
level of a
And
nuclear
it could not
weapon
even
or
be
something on that.
necessarily a nuclear warhead. It could be what's called a dirty bomb, which is a conventional bomb
Yeah,
with
yeah,
radiation attachments.
yeah. The fallout,
And
Yeah.
I have a
What?
clip
depleted
of
uranium.
a British Minister. He's someone high up in Britain. I'm gonna play that clip. It's a lot shorter, and it talks about dirty bombs. You segue in, and this will be our last clip of the night on the drones because
Oh,
I know
nice.
Gray is sick of it.
Oh, you're always on it with the
will
videos.
use nuclear weapons if Russia is threatened. So is there actually a way of winning any war against Russia?
Well, if it goes nuclear, no one's winning, are they?
Do
But
you
of
think
course,
he would?
the super. Yes, I think he would. I've got defence analysts feeding me information, and they're in, services, and they're saying that there is going to be a nuclear detonation in Europe.
Who by?
Well, it could be a dirty bomb. I mean, there's a lot of nuclear material floating around in Ukraine from their nuclear reactors. I mean, to create contamination, all you need is some conventional explosives and some nuclear material, and you've got a dirty bomb. They may have already been set off in the Donbass area now.
And that could be the false flag that starts the war.
Yeah, there's many ways it can be done.
Like 9/11.
Like 9/11. And the other reasons for having general elections is that, Rishi's maintained that he's got inflation down to 2.3% and his plan's working. Well, if it was really working, he'd be waiting till the autumn to demonstrate it's working more. The fact is, he knows that food price inflation is going to rocket by the end of the summer. And that's going to be no relief on interest rates whatsoever. So this is as good as it gets for him on the economy. He's got to have an election by January next year, so there's no respite from the high interest rates. And the other thing is, of course, the disastrous and ineffective Rwanda bill for dealing with the illegal migrants. That was only ever for show. Anyone who'd been in Parliament for more than 5 minutes looking at the list, it wasn't robust enough, not leaving the European Convention of Human Rights or the Treaty Convention on Refugees. All it was going to be is a blank check for lawyers to make a lot of money. It's more.
So, Gray,
Who's he
I
talking
come
about?
back to huh?
I'm sorry, who was he talking about?
He was talking about something with Britain. Something with Rwanda.
Was he
I
talking
don't
about?
know.
Was he talking about the British Prime Minister though? When he said he knows he has to win an election in January? Or...
Yeah, that's who he's talking about. So Gray, I go back to you. I mean, you don't believe any conspiracies. Even Jay's kind of believing stuff. I mean, what do you forget what forget what the government is telling you, Gray? What do you think is going on? Use your military background, put your brain on, and not believe all of the government. What do you think?
Okay, so we have the Ukraine and Russian war where drones were the biggest, newest technology being used in war. I think that the most reasonable explanation is that they're doing some kind of training. I know the guy that made the Oculus that worked for Facebook. You can look up his name. I can't think of his name, but who made the Oculus? He was given certain government contracts because he was able to do like VR and stuff like that. And Mark Zuckerberg fired him for political stuff he did with Trump. So it's a big possibility that they're doing some type of military training. I mean, if you look at your iPhone, FaceTime, that was created by the military. The internet was created by the military. So the military has created some of the greatest technology that we have now. So I think it's a military training exercise.
Military contractors.
Yeah. Vulgar.
Like I said, I something's going on. They're looking for something. I'm gonna keep it to that. I don't get into the conspiracies either, or I don't like to speculate too much to spread too much. But that's I'm logical, and the most logical explanation is they're not up there for nothing.
Jay.
It's weird. It's almost like, not that I want something bad to happen, but I almost want the looking for radiation thing to be true because it just sounds so much better than just like some sort of test or training. But to me, the training doesn't make sense because it's a large urban area. I feel like drones haven't been tested in that mass capacity yet. As far as, like you said, they really haven't been tested massively in war. This is like having jet planes for the first time in World War II. They haven't been tested at that mass scale yet. And I don't think the government has any issue with testing over their own people, regardless of who's president.
Nora thinks it's ET.
No, I don't. I said I have 4 theories, and I talked about it on the TikTok live. The first was I said this could be something biblical, something religious. I read the Bible. I said from my least to most. Second, I thought it could be extraterrestrial life, and then third, I said I have a feeling that it's China or Iran, and they have these drones coming in to spy on us because they're planning an October 7th attack. And
that's so specific.
Yeah. Very specific. Yes. Like my mind is constantly going. And then
why
after when I heard Saturday, because I think it has to do with the border. If you guys a lot of people from China, places like that, they've come in through the border. They're not being, yes, they have. They have. And I
Okay.
do believe there are sleeper cells in this country that hate this country, that could be planning anything at any time. I do. And they're just waiting for the green light from whatever big billionaire terrorist around the world funds them to do something. I do. And the FBI does catch them all the time. So that's not conspiracy. Like, that is legit
Yeah,
factual, what I just said.
yeah, they
And they
catch right
catch
wing
them. I mean,
groups all
we
the
have
time too. White boys.
but
They do.
anyways, one of those things, but the thing I'm leaning towards currently, December 17th, is I I think there's a dirty bomb, unfortunately, and I think people better be aware of what's going on.